Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this wavy ombre textured buttercream cake that I topped with some edible gold and some fresh flowers. And this time I'm going to show you how I placed that fresh floral on top. But first we're going to get our cake assembled. I have leveled all of my cakes and I am doing a buttercream dam, which is just thickened buttercream around the outside to keep the filling from coming out in between the layers. And then I put a little bit of buttercream on the bottom, just a thin layer, because the filling on this cake was a raspberry filling. And since that's a thinner filling, I didn't want it to squeeze out or to soak into the cake too much on the bottom. So there I kind of just made sure that that ring of thickened buttercream was sealed before I put in the raspberry preserves. Now, you don't need too thick of a layer of the raspberry preserves. Keep that in mind. Sometimes people make the mistake of wanting to do like a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch thick filling with fresh fruit fillings. And you know what? That's not necessary. You don't need a big mouthful of the preserved filling. You just need a taste of it. That's why I add the buttercream also. So you have 2 layers of flavors, buttercream and the raspberry in each layer of filling. And then we're going to do the same thing throughout the assembly of this cake. And then I popped it into the freezer for 10 minutes, just so that it would firm up a little bit, so that when I do the rest of the crumb coating and the final coating, well, actually the final coating is the piping, but the crumb coating, because that just, again, is a little safety net on keeping your thinner fillings from coming out. Just pop it in the freezer for 10 minutes or the fridge for about 20 minutes, just so that buttercream can firm up. And then I'm just doing a pretty decent layer of buttercream as my crumb coat. It's not a real thin layer of buttercream for a crumb coat, but it's not quite as thick as a final layer, since we are going to have the piping on top of it. And then just bring that buttercream into the center on the top. And sometimes you have to go back and redefine that corner if it's not sharp enough. And you just kind of go back and forth of smoothing the side and then bringing it into the middle on the top, smoothing the top again, then smoothing the side again, then bringing it into the center again. And these are the tips that I'm using. I'm using the same tips on all my colors. I did 5 colors. And I am just placing them in the tips. These are the French tips inside of each of my bags. This is not the tiny French tip, and it's not the largest French tip. It's the medium-sized one. I'm not sure which number it is. I'll see if I can find that for you and add that in the description box. And the colors I'm using, this is how I'm doing my ombre. I'm going to start with my darkest color, the color that's going to be on the bottom. So I used a little pale pink and some ivory. And then you just mix these together until you get the desired color for your darkest tone. And that's where we're going to start. And keep in mind that you're going to have each layer is going to be in an ombre is going to be lighter than the one before it. So you don't want to start too light or you don't have anywhere to go. And if you get it too dark, you can add a little bit more white buttercream. Now I've got this a color that I'm happy with. So I'm going to use my cup. We call this Cuppy. Cuppy has a name. She has a personality at our bakery. And that just helps to fill your bag. I don't always do this, but some days I don't want my hands sticky, so I just go ahead and use the cup. Now, you don't want to fill your bag so much that you can't hold onto it as you're piping. So if there's not enough excess bag at the top, just go ahead and squeeze some of it out. And then to make our corresponding colors, going from dark on the bottom, like I said, up to light on the top, I'm just taking whatever's left over of that buttercream and adding some more buttercream and sometimes a little bit of white food coloring to get it a shade or 2 lighter. And that's really all I'm doing that. And you'll do that for each of your colors. Now I just wanted to show you the range of shades of the same shade, the different saturations of the same shade of pink that I will be working with. And here's what they look like piped out. Now, to make sure that my spacing is, this is a wavy pattern, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want to run out of room. So you take your colors, how many colors you have, I had 5 colors, and then divide that into the height of your cake, and that will give you the number of, or the thickness of each line, approximately. So I marked that up the side, and then I'm just marking a wavy line with just a toothpick. You could use a Dresden tool if you want to, but I had a toothpick, so I used that. And remember, I kind of wish I had a 6th color for this very bottom one, because you're going to start, it's hard to explain. You're not going to have, on that very first one, you're not going to have a line all the way around the bottom. It's just going to be your high point of what, imagine that there's a solid line going around, the wavy line. So just the high point of each of those waves. And then go ahead and just pipe in each color. And I do like to put the cake back in the freezer for 10 minutes in between each different color. Because otherwise, sometimes the weight of a piped cake, when you have this much buttercream that you're piping, can kind of weigh down the colors below if it's not firmed up. And just as a safety measure, I like to do that. I do the same thing when I'm doing buttercream rosettes on a cake. Like if the entire cake is covered in buttercream rosettes, I will do a row and then chill it and then go ahead and put them back in the refrigerator or the freezer to firm up. And these are the fresh flowers that I had to work with. I had some roses and some carnations. And what I do is I cut them down and I'm just wrapping the bottoms in up a fair way with some floral tape. Now that's just one step in the process here. And I'm trying to get them to be a little bit more full. And sometimes if you just hang it upside down and swirl it in your hands like that, it'll kind of, the gravity, the force, the power of the centrifugal force, I think that's what I'm trying to say, of spinning it in your hands will sometimes make the petals come out. And these were almost a little too fresh for that. And I went ahead and wrapped all of my stems. And then I'm going to use a boba tea straw in the cake. You don't have to use the whole length of it. Just make sure that it's long enough for your stem. And place your flowers in there. That's a very food-safe way to do this. And since I'm working with fresh flowers this time, I made sure that I use those straws. Because this was actually for an order that we had at the bakery. And then if I don't use a straw because they're not going into the cake, I will just put some buttercream and then place the flower. And sometimes you can use the stray petals from the roses to kind of fill in the gaps in between the roses. I don't know if you caught me doing that. I just used a petal. There was a gap. I just used 2 petals and I just plunked them in there so that they look like they're part of the rose that they came off of. And just arrange these however you want or however your client would like them to be. And then I had some more of these, what are these, eucalyptus leaves, I believe? These were dried. And then some more of, I don't even know what those other flowers are. They were dried flowers also. They're more like seed buds, whatever. What's left after they have bloomed. Whatever flower that was. And I'm using my Barnabas Gold, my favorite Barnabas Gold, edible gold, to add some accent of gold. And with this texture, I did notice that it just kind of eats up the gold. There was no way to place them so that I had bigger pieces of gold like I wanted. It just kind of sucks into the crevices of your piping, and that's okay. I just ended up using quite a bit of it. And there it is, all done, guys. I hope you liked it. This is a little bit different from what I normally do. I don't do a whole lot of just all piped cakes, but since this was for an order and this is something different, I thought you might enjoy watching this for a change. And I hope you liked it, and we'll catch you next time. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.